Hi, I wanted to share with you today the process that I start using whenever I feel stuck energy coming forward, or if I feel a lot of intense energy that I'm aware of that I don't want to spill over to some poor, unintended victim of my anger or frustration or whatever. Or if I feel myself needing to cry, but I haven't been able to, this is a really good process. Some of this process my shaman taught me, and some of it is some things that I've added in. I can't teach you straight up what my shaman taught me, because if you go really deep, you can kind of get lost in this. And so I'm trying to teach you enough of it to actually really move any stuck energy that you have without putting you into trauma. So there are all these different aspects to who we are, and if we've been fragmented when we were younger, let's say we went through some sort of trauma, we get little pieces of ourselves stuck in different areas. Or if we even went through a traumatic breakup, divorce, we got fired and our life turned upside down, whatever that is, that can be considered trauma. In the 1970s, psychologists predicted that people who'd been through trauma had, on average, 6 to 7 fragmented parts to who they were. In this day and age, it is predicted that the average person has 22 pieces of fragmentation, and that's without any trauma. So what I mean when I talk about fragmentation is pieces of ourselves that got stuck, and the goal is to be whole. And so whenever you start feeling stuck energy, or you're in this repeated pattern with people, let's say you're the one who's all calm and put together, and you attract people who spin out, or people who, I have a friend who, for whatever reason, he attracts people who go down this path of addiction, and he's always in control, right? That also tells you that there's a part of you that's fragmented and stuck with not being okay with processing emotions, okay? And I have had a lot of men reach out lately who've said, I want to feel my emotions, but I don't know how to do it. So this is what I do. The first thing that you want to do is you want to light a candle. I have a candle here, but it keeps interfering with the lighting and changing things around, making it chaotic. So it's here, it's lit, and when I'm lighting the candle, I say a prayer, a blessing, greatest hope and motivation, wish, whatever you want to call it. But I send up an intention into the atmosphere that, for me, this is the light of the divine. So fire is transformative. Anything that you put in fire will change. If you put metal in hot enough fire, you can bend it. If you put glass in fire, you can mold it into different shapes. If you put a piece of wood into fire, it becomes ash. So fire, especially at an unconscious level to our minds, our little limbic area that's just like very Neanderthal, has a lot of significance and meaning. If you ever watched the show Survivor, it's all about keeping fire, and it's not just for cooking. There's something about fire that's comforting to us, that's like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. So light a fire. I say a blessing. I light this fire to represent the light of the divine. May it be a blessing to me, and all that I say be transformed by thy grace. Okay, so I light it as a representation of grace. So here's basically the process, and if you want to watch the rest of the video, I'll give you an example and show you how it's done. We're going to admit the truth of what's going on without giving any reason, justification, or excuse for it. We're just going to admit the truth. Then we're going to validate that piece of us with, again, no justification, no reasoning. Don't go into explaining why things have to be this way. Just validate it. The part of our brain that keeps going over and over and over a situation just needs to be validated. And it might need to be validated 100 different times in this process, but it's really looking for validation and completion. Okay, so this is a good process for completion. And then the last of the 3 steps is we're going to make a commitment. Now, if you're in a crisis with a situation, you might only be able to make a 1-hour commitment. If it's something that is affecting you daily, you might be able to make a day-by-day commitment. Maybe it's a 1 week, and maybe it's a 1 year. So I'll give you an example of what it looks like. Now, a lot of us in the self-development, yoga, new age community think nothing negative is okay. And you guys will hear me say this a lot. Too many sunny days cause a drought. So if it's only positivity, we're going to get really stuck, and those stuck pieces start causing stuck energy, and then we're going to fragment. Okay? So we're going to have this safe space. I create a little space in my home where this is just for processing and for work. Okay, so we're not going to harm anybody, but we really have to admit what's going on. We have to admit if we hate someone, or if, we wish they weren't on this planet anymore, or whatever it is. But you're going to send it into the fire, and the fire will transform that. So I'll give you a couple different examples of how I do this. And I also like to add some tapping in, and I'll show you that. Tapping on the thymus gland here. If you've had a little anxiety, be careful to not tap too hard. I've done some really light tapping with fingertips, woken up the next morning with a bruise. So if you have a lot of stuck energy, be really careful. And if you've had depression, there are points right underneath your collarbone here, about the midpoint of the collarbone, that get really tight and sore. Sometimes you can feel a lump. And then I'll do the tapping this way if I've had depression going on, and especially if you've had some long-term depression leading to weight gain, this is a really good tapping method, okay? So let's take an example of, Dave, my brother-in-law. I don't have a brother-in-law named Dave. Making crap up right now, okay, just to give you an example. Dave, my brother-in-law, I can't stand him. He causes me a lot of stress. The holidays are coming up, and I know I have to be around him, and I just can't seem to resolve it. So this is what I would do. There's some fragmented or some aspect of me that wishes I could just either not go to the family stuff or never see Dave again, okay, for whatever reason. Here's what it is. I validate. So first I say into the fire, and you want to have the fire right in front of you, and your legs in either Sukhasana, easy pose from yoga, or feet flat on the floor with no crossing of anything else, okay? Unless you're doing the tapping method. So I might start just, and I like the heartbeat tap, and I just tune into, I can't stand Dave. I hate Dave. Dave ruins my party every time I'm around. He gets my family to turn against me and makes me look stupid. And then here's the validating. I know, sweetie, it's hard to be around Dave. He's been really difficult for you. And then if I have some more stuff coming up, yeah, and you know what? I think Dave is like a liar and a cheater, and he's getting away with a bunch of crap, and he just looks like this great guy, but he's horrible. Again, validate. You know what? I know, I get it. And he's really been hurting your feelings, and it's been really difficult for you. And you know what? Dave reminds me of that old boyfriend that I had, Steve. Steve was a jerk like that too. And everybody, when we broke up, everybody was on Steve's side. And I hate Steve now. Sweetie, I know. And Steve didn't appreciate all the effort and the work that you put in for him. And you just keep going down, even if it changes to a different person, what you need to validate, okay? So when you get all the way down and you're just feeling that energy move through your body and you feel complete and you've really validated that part of yourself that's feeling that way. And you get down into that area of, yeah, I wish Steve had done a better job when we went in our different ways. And I'm sorry he didn't see that you're really such a beautiful and sweet person and that you were really good to him. And let's say that starts feeling complete and I feel everything moving. Now I'm going to move on to commitments. So if I run into Steve, or when I know I have to see Dave, here's my commitment. And then we talk to that aspect of ourselves again. I know you want me to feel more protective of you. I know that you make all this effort and you come home feeling drained and like you're somehow the bad person. So what I'm going to do is, if I see Steve or if I see Dave or I start getting that feeling around them, I'm going to be more protective of you, and I'm sorry I haven't done that for you. What we'll do is we'll go over and we'll go by Aunt Susie, who loves us, and we'll talk to Aunt Susie for a while. And if we go back by Dave and it still feels that way, I promise you we're going to leave this time, okay? And then that's it. And this stuff that keeps raveling through your mind all the time, it will start subsiding when you give it a voice without saying, yeah, but Dave's done all these great things for you, so you should be. Don't do that. It just wants to be validated. So validate it. It's like a little kid. It doesn't care that 5 cookies are going to give it a tummy ache. It just wants what it wants, right? And so don't tell it the reasoning or the justification or any excuses. Just validate it and then make a commitment, okay? Let's move on to the next one. Maybe we don't hate someone. Maybe we love someone. Maybe, Tom, and I've never dated a Tom, so these are good names for me. Maybe Tom that we were with for 5 years. The first 2 years were the most amazing, and then he got addicted to drugs, or he relapsed into drugs, or whatever that was, okay? Let's move into that. So, and maybe that's causing us depression. We just want to stay with this. So maybe it's not about hate, maybe it's about love. I want to tell the universe and myself and everybody, I still love Tom. I know, sweetie. Tom, I know how much you love Tom. I mean, Tom is everything to me, and Tom really understood me, and Tom really took care of me. He's the only person who really got deep into my heart, and I miss him. We were high school sweethearts. I know, it's been really hard for you, and you're afraid to be without him. So just everything that you start feeling about him, maybe you're embarrassed to tell your friends that you still constantly think about him years later. Maybe it goes into a different thing, such as I'm afraid if I stay away from Tom, he's going to get sober, and then the one person who really loves me won't even have me anymore. Just admit it. I know, and that will be really hard for you. I know you're afraid of that, and it's okay that you're afraid of it. I get it. Like, be the kindest, most loving, either parent or friend or peer that you can be to this part of yourself. Maybe it goes deeper than that. Tom reminds me of my dad, and my dad, when he used to come home drunk all the time, and I would take care of him, and one day my dad got sober, and so maybe Tom will too. Or Tom reminds me of my older brother who used to come home drunk all the time. And you know what? When I left my older brother and I used tough love on him, he ended up getting sober, and it split the family up that I used tough love, and now my family's gone because they all sided with him. Maybe that's what's underneath and in the roots of all of this, right? And just keep validating and validating and validating. Maybe you make people spin out and they're super emotional while you're calm. I like having people be emotional and I look like the one who's all put together and calm, because when I was a kid, I didn't look like that. So just give the aspect a voice. Give it a voice, right? And then maybe we finish up with our commitments with, okay, let's go back to this Tom thing, right? So, honey, I know it's really scary. I know you loved him for years. I know you still love him to this day. This is what I'm doing. I am doing my best to find a partner who's good for us. And he's going to love you more than Tom did. And he's going to be healthy. And we won't have to play the fix-it game anymore. All of us are getting more healthy, and we're getting better. And we're going to do a really good job at taking care of you. And when you're sad and lonely, I promise you, even if we're out in the mall shopping, or if we're in the car and you feel like crying, we'll go take care of you. We'll find some place to just sit quietly and listen to what you have to say. So for the next week, you just let me know when you need a little extra tenderheartedness, and I will take care of you, okay? And then that's it. Now look, here's the thing. I know this all sounds so simple and so easy that it cannot work. This was a huge piece of my healing process. I mean, you name any kind of healing process in the past, and I had tried it and it didn't work. So this worked for me because I know myself well enough that I know what that little aspect of myself is really hungry for, and I can give it the validation that it needs. I used to call 20 different friends and tell them the same story over and over and over again about what was going on, and it never really felt like I was getting beyond it, right? I had some severe trauma as a kid, and I was in therapy for 8 years. And we couldn't do what a couple of months of this processing did. Now, let's say you go down deep into some stuff and you pull up some memories and some feelings you haven't had for a long time. Maybe you've had PTSD before, and I've had that, and I've recovered from that. So I'll tell you, the best thing to do to bring yourself back to present time is you have to tell that aspect of yourself, you want to listen to it, but you need a little break, and you're going to come right back, and then you bring yourself to present time. And this is all they do for, yoga for PTSD. These are my legs. I'm here right now. These are my legs, and I'm sitting in a chair, and this is where we are. This is my arm. This is my neck, and I'm rubbing my neck right now, and it feels good. And so bring yourself back into present time and present moment, okay? It's really shocking when we start doing this how much emotion we can bring up, especially those of you who have a difficult time crying, but you know that you need to. One thing you can do is bring the candle really close. Hopefully this won't disturb too much. You can bring the candle really close to your face, and you can look at it. Don't put your eyes right above it, because of course there are fumes coming off. But sometimes when you bring the candle really close to your face for a while, tears will start coming out. Because looking at a fire a little bit closely will help the tear ducts start flowing. And then once the tears start coming, just start talking. Let that aspect of yourself completely have its way. Let it say anything that it wants to. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't be like, oh no, I posted there is only love on Facebook yesterday. I can't hate someone. Yes, you can. Just in the privacy of what you're doing right here, let the fire absorb it for you, and it will transform it for you. Okay? I hope this process helps. It's been tremendous for me. Good luck with it. Let me know how it goes.